Hello, and welcome to the Trumped Up Podcast, Season 2, Episode 6, Corona Conspiracies and Chaos. We're at a tough time in the world right now. Right here in America, state of emergency has been declared. There's a massive pandemic going. It started in China. The media, complained when Trump actually instituted travel bans to China. And then later on, they said, okay, maybe he was right. Now we've added Europe, including the UK and Ireland, into these travel bans because these are necessary steps we have to take. Even Mexico is considering securing the Mexico-U.S. border so cases don't go there. If only they would have helped secure the border to keep the immigrants illegally coming to America out. But that's for another time and place. This week, it's just getting out of control in some aspects, and we need to remember that we need to keep some common sense and deal with this in a calm manner. I understand it can be overwhelming to some people, and then I understand other people are taking it not so serious because it's not that major of a problem yet. Let me emphasize yet. This is going to grow. We're already over 2,000 cases now with over 50 deaths. I mean, there's a lot of reasons this could have happened. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that people are talking about, a lot of things I've been seeing, a lot of opinions. There are a lot of memes and making jokes. Don't take people the wrong way. This is a coping mechanism. People deal with serious things in different ways, and if you have to deal with it with jokes and memes and in a laughing manner to make yourself more calm, that's 100% okay. If people freak out on you for it, just explain to them this is how you're dealing with this, because you don't really understand. You haven't lived through something like this, or you've lived through things like this before, but the panic and the hype and all the stuff you've been seeing and all the stuff going on is quite overwhelming at this time. So let's start with the first Corona conspiracy out there. Recently, the sales of Corona beer have gone down 17%. Let me emphasize, the Corona Beer Company and their product does not cause the coronavirus. It's an airborne respiratory virus. You will get it if people cough on you, if you touch things they coughed on you within a certain period of time. You're not going to get this simply from drinking Corona beer. So please, if the liquor stores are still open in your area and they're not busy, and you like to drink beer, do them a favor and purchase Corona. Although I prefer you buy an American product like Budweiser, because we need to support American businesses as Americans. Which, that's one thing this whole pandemic is pointing out to me, that 96% of our drugs that we manufacture are made in China, and the Chinese are talking about they may withhold them from Americans and we'll be screwed. We won't have antibiotics and other medications. And then some of the rationale I've seen of, well, if we bring it to America, it'll raise the price. You know, the price of drugs is outrageous anyway. Are we really saving money by making drugs in China? I really don't think so when they're thousands of dollars for some of these medications. I mean, even if you just buy a hearing aid, which is probably also made in China, it costs you anywhere from an over-the-counter one, which runs $600 to $800, to some really fancy ones that cost $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for something that's basically a microphone and a speaker. I mean, with a good pair of earbuds and a microphone on your phone, it'll probably serve the same purpose. You can turn it up and down. But their justification of this was that, and, well, then should we start manufacturing other stuff in America? Yes, we need, this is the wake-up call that everyone in America needed, not because of virus, and we're not totally prepared for a mass virus epidemic, but we need to start making things in America so we can be an independent country again and make America great again by making things again. Make them here. If you have to pay a little more and the employees make more, it's a win-win for everybody, including the government, who will make more taxes on things that are made in America. We don't need to be making trade deals with China. We need to start teaching China that they don't control us in one way or another. So then I read another person's thought was, maybe this was Kim Jong-un's Christmas present he talked about like a year or two ago when he said this, and everybody's like, what the hell is he talking about? And nobody knew, but I really don't think it's Kim Jong-un who would have released this. I think he's more fascinated with missiles and rockets, and I think chemical warfare is out of his wheelhouse, but no one really knows. But I'm pretty sure that's just one conspiracy theory. Then we have the Chinese foreign minister. He's claiming that our U.S. military purposely released this on the Chinese people for some reason. I don't know, right after we signed a trade deal with them, phase 1, which was more beneficial to us than making a whole bunch of people sick, which in turn led to people in our country becoming sick. That would be just not even fathomable, number one. I mean, that's the stuff of movies, but you can mark my words, if the Chinese government is saying this, that 100% they did it. And it was probably a chemical warfare attack, germ warfare attack, because Trump forced them into this trade deal, and they wanted to destroy our economy. Now, another theory that goes along with this is the Democrats, the deep state, and China are working together to take down Trump. The stock market's been down thousands, 2,000 points over the last week until Friday, when we had a nice jump of almost 2,000 points. I believe it was one of the best days ever, if not the best day ever on the stock market, due to the president declaring a state of emergency and them realizing relief is coming, an aid package, which we'll get into after. I personally, yes, it's coincidental that right after impeachment ended that this happened. I don't think that's really the case, and I'm pretty sure that even when they're saying, oh, the Chinese knew earlier in like November, this probably had been going on since September or even earlier, and we're lucky these foreign leaders didn't come over here, these trade people from China, and infect our president and lots of members of our government. But I really don't think that's what's going on, but it's easy to see how somebody would believe that because of all the craziness in the world and because so many people have tried to attack Trump. I mean, we're going to get into a few other things after the break here in a minute. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with a Trumped Up podcast. Hey, you too can join the podcasting world and be one of the greatest podcasters out there. Build an audience, get sponsorships, earn money, and do many, many interesting things. You can also get listener support to help sponsor your show, all by using Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to become a podcaster. Anyone can do it. If you got something to say, or someone thinks you got something to say, or you just want to say something, come and join Anchor and join the podcasting revolution. Hello, and welcome back to the Trumped Up Podcast, Season 2, Episode 6, Corona Conspiracies and Chaos. I am your host, Keith Rao. I'm glad you're tuned in. Tell your friends, tell everyone. Remember, we can be listened and streamed across a wide variety of podcasting platforms. Now back to the show. You know, the media's out there and they're hyping up things and they're making everything the end of the world. This is a problem, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to minimize it more than necessary, but this is not the end of the world. It's not a zombie apocalypse. It's not a nuclear war. It's a virus. We've had coronaviruses before. They've been defeated. Ebola has been defeated. The plague has been defeated. The Spanish flu. And treatments and medications and things are getting better. Are people going to die? Yes, people are going to die. What is the final percentage of people who are going to die from this virus going to be? Relatively low, I'd say 2%, possibly even less than 2%. It could be less than 1%. It could be as high as 5%. Is it going to affect 25,000 people? Is it going to affect 1 million people? But we're in a country of 320 million people, so chances are the number's not going to be low. Just because you test positive with this virus, you may remain asymptomatic or symptom-free. It may not affect you very much. And then I seen an interview today, one gentleman, even after the 14 days, like 39 days later, he's still in quarantine because they're swabbing him, and for some reason, which they don't know yet, he's still testing positive for the virus. This may be because there's dead virus cells still on him. So they're going to have to do additional testing of why this is and find out why his case is lasting so long so the poor guy can get out of quarantine someday. Or it may be the fact that if you're a carrier of this virus, much like people who are carriers of strep throat, they don't have symptoms of strep throat every day, but if they get it, then they can spread it to other people. But just because they're carrying it doesn't mean they're going to give it to you. The majority of you, even if you get this virus, it's not going to cause you any problems. You're not going to get sick, but other people will, especially if you're in certain categories like elderly people, especially over 70, people with COPD, asthma, other respiratory issues. And that's unfortunate. I'm sure there's other categories of people that can be affected. Now, Biden came out this week, just recently, when he can get his mics to work, but I think it was before he tried to do his failed town hall where he didn't even know he was muted and nobody knew what was going on, till a staffer had to tell him this. And they got to figure out, but then they scrapped it in the long run because he's just not all there and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And if you can't run a internet frickin' town hall, which is about as simple as running this podcast, although thinking of a lot of things to say isn't easy, it's just the actual software that I'm using is quite simple and easy, and it's so easy a caveman could do it, as Geico would like to say. No, they're not my sponsor. I just find that humorous. But he claimed President Trump had no plan to fight this virus. And then what's he do? He plagiarized the exact plan President Trump had to fight the virus. Apparently he's either clueless or he thinks people are clueless. But if he thinks you're clueless, please don't vote for him because then you're accepting the fact that he thinks you're an idiot. And I wouldn't go there. But, yeah. But even Obama had to apologize for Joe Biden's poor handling of a previous virus where 60 million, or I don't know what the exact number was, but tons of people got infected and quite a few people died, along with the flu, which every year people die. They're saying this coronavirus is much more contagious and it can be spread much more easily, but every year the flu is a major problem. And maybe if we took some of these measures that they're taking, where they're closing things and eliminating things and taking time off of school during outbreaks and cleaning, then we could cut down on the spread of the flu and the common cold. And hopefully someday we'll have a cure for these things. But do you think the Chinese want to cure us? No, they're going to make whatever it is to treat it and make tons of money off of us. Because the Chinese are an evil empire and they're really about making lots of money off of us. It's just unacceptable and we have to bring it back to America. Bring it back to America. That's the plan we need for the future. We used to have a factory like right across the river from me here in the next town over. There was probably 150 factories and the majority of them were paper plants and they're all crumbling. They're tearing them down. They're building a solar farm. I believe they're also growing a marijuana grow facility for legal or medical sales of marijuana if they haven't already done that. Then you got AOC over here. She comes out on Fox News. I'm shocked that she did an interview with Fox News, or the fact that they actually put her on Fox News. But yeah, she was on there, and she made the statement and claims that ways we could fight this virus is to eliminate student debt and provide universal income during this crisis. I'm not usually for socialist programs and government assistance, but during tough times, we have to do tough things, and if it raises the deficit, we have to do it regardless because it's an emergency time. I would be okay if the government in their bill gave universal income, which the bill they passed in the House, I don't believe has that. It does have other measures like one, Trump himself, without the federal government, did a executive order temporarily halting, or I don't even know if it was an executive order, but he did use his authority to end interest on student loans during this time. But in this bill, I believe, but I don't think eliminating student debt, maybe a pause on payments, that would be helpful. I personally don't think the government should be in the business of student loans in the first place. They should leave it to the private sector because the government shouldn't be profit off on people getting an education. The universal income, if it was for like a month or two because people were out of work, but that's where they extended unemployment benefits in this bill. They waive they're going to pass additional temporary food stamp assistance, and they're going to waive the work requirement for these programs. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch more stuff in there that we really don't know. But originally, when they wanted to pass this bill, Pelosi and the Democrats thought they were funny, like they always do when they try to pass emergency bills, like they did after Superstorm Sandy, and they put in things about drilling in Alaska or aid to Alaska or something, which had nothing to do with aid for the victims of Sandy. Well, Pelosi and the Democrats tried to slip in abortion funding. That's just not the time, and that's too political and totally irrelevant, and they need to knock it off. And there was some other goodies they put in there, which I haven't really heard too much about, but every time the Democrats release a bill or introduce a bill for something, they also put in goodies and freebies for their buddies and their donors and things, and they should knock it off. If you're going to pass a bill for emergency funding for a pandemic or hurricane relief or tornado relief like just happened in Tennessee, our thoughts are still with you people. Don't worry, we didn't forget about you just because there's other things going on. We know what's going on, and we know you're going to rebuild, and we hope the government gives you all the assistance you need, because it was no doing of your own any more than this pandemic is a doing of our own, as though it may be the doing of a foreign government out to destroy us. But that's just my theory. I have another theory, which I was stating to my wife before I actually started reading, that in 9 months we're probably going to have a massive baby boom in America, which is good because we'll raise the population of America with American citizen babies, as opposed to the Democrats telling us, well, Americans aren't making babies as much anymore, and we need to import people and have immigrants come here and to keep the population growth up so the future jobs, these people can do them. Although we're not importing the people to do the job of the future mostly, we're importing people to do low-skilled jobs. They're going to be replaced by automation, of course. So once the Democrats and Pelosi got shamed, I got rid of a lot of those things. Now, to go along with this, I'm going to tidy up here and finish up a little bit. To those of you who are out there and you're buying things in massive panic and are hoarding and have 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer in a storage unit, and you're mad because Amazon blocks you from selling them because you're an idiot. You need to knock it off. Really, I don't care who you are. If you're going to go to the store and buy some groceries for 2 weeks to a month, that's fine. Many people, myself included, at the beginning of every month, I go to the grocery store and shop for a month. This is my normal routine. I don't buy more than I need for a month. I stock up on meat and snacks and bread and bagels and things that will last, and pastas and rice and sauces and gravy and things that you will have for the month so you can use them during the month. I also buy one bulk thing of toilet paper every month. It lasts the whole month. We have a BJ's membership, as well as tissues, because people in my household have allergies. We don't hoard these things. We buy the purchase we need for our family. But the problem with all these people, they're out and we're supposed to be socially isolating, which normally doctors and therapists will tell you it's bad to do this, but during a pandemic, it's actually a good thing to keep our separation as much as possible. But if you do this on a normal day, they say you're antisocial, and then they'll tell you to go get therapy. But that's neither here nor there. It's irrelevant to anything at the moment. It's just my thought. But one thing is, the symptoms of the coronavirus are not diarrhea. They're not going to the bathroom a lot with number 2. So the panic buying of the toilet paper with 14 packs of bulk amounts blows my mind and makes me wonder, why are these people buying this much toilet paper? It just makes no sense. And at first I'm like, why are they buying this and tissues and Kleenex and hand sanitizer? But they're not buying any food. But now they started with that too, and they're cleaning out. You need to remain calm. The world is not going to end. Yes, some people are going to die. Lots of people are going to get sick. But the world is not going to end. It's not a nuclear war. And if it was, none of that stuff would do you any good in the first place, because you would no longer be here. You have passed on, and you would no longer be living and need inanimate objects like toilet paper. But the problem with this is lots and lots and lots of people are going out together to the grocery store and to Costco and BJ's and Walmart, and there's tons of them in there, and they're in close proximity. Hey, stay back 6 to 10 feet is the recommendation by the CDC and many doctors. But no. And then you go to the register, and maybe you go to self-checkout thinking, okay, it's not a person. But then you pick up that scanner that 1,000 people today picked up, and it's covered with germs. So please wash your hands after you do this. Before you touch your carriage when you go into the store, I recommend, they're at the entrance to Walmart, there are sanitizing wipes. Grab the wipe first and wipe the handle of the carriage. Many people carry these in their purse if they're a woman, or in their coat if they're a man, or whatever. That's also a good idea too, so you can sanitize it before you touch it. I don't mind if you do that also to the little scanner thing at the self-checkout. But then you put your card into the thing with all the push buttons for your debit card if you don't have cash, or you went to the ATM, same thing, and you touch all these buttons, and what are you doing? You're sticking your hands in germs. So then please go wash your hands. Do not touch your face. These are common sense things. I know it's hard not to touch your face. It's just a normal thing that people do, especially people who have anxiety. They tend to touch their face all the time. But if you wash your hands constantly, then you're going to reduce your risk. If you hear somebody coughing, get the hell away from them. Granted, don't freak out and run in a panic and trample people either, because some people are smokers and they have a smoker's cough, or some people with seasonal allergies will cough, and they'll have a runny nose, they'll sneeze. Hopefully you cover your face with your sleeve, not your hand, so then you're touching everything. It's time for not chaos, not conspiracies. It's time for common sense. I know in America common sense isn't so common anymore, but we need to get back to the time of common sense. Hence, there's a lot of closures going on of schools, sporting events, sports leagues. The NFL draft may be canceled. NASCAR was going to run their races without fans, but then at the last minute decided for at least the next 2 weeks they're not going to run them at all, although they may virtually do it on iRacing.com. If you're into racing and you want to be a race car driver, I highly recommend that sim racing is the way to go because it's a lot cheaper than building a real race car, although it comes with a cost. No, it's not a paid endorsement. I'm endorsing them because I like their company, I like their website, and I like what they do. And it's the only racing gig in town right now. But yeah, the NFL draft might be postponed, or they might do it some other way. I don't know. But all I'm really worried about in the NFL is if Tom Brady's really going to sign with the Patriots again or not. But he doesn't need to meet with lots of people to tell us this. But yeah, Massachusetts isn't one of the states that closed all their schools, but mostly every local school district is doing it themselves, as well as senior centers, libraries, and the Massachusetts Gaming Commission actually for 2 weeks has closed their casinos. I'm assuming if we're going to follow suit with places like France and Spain, who are closing things like theaters and bars and liquor stores, that America's probably going to follow suit with these things too. But if we're all out in mass amounts of people when we're supposed to not be in large crowds and large gatherings, or people are just like, well, I have lots of free time because of this, and I'm going to go to the mall, and there's 1,000 people in the mall, which there's nothing really you need at the mall now, unless you're going to Target, because some malls have a Target. But the things you would buy at Target that are staples are probably sold out, which is also a problem with this mass panic buying, because sure, you're going to have 1,000 rolls of toilet paper. Hey, you're going to wash your hands and you're going to sanitize your hands, but the poor guy down the street, he's not going to be able to do it and he's going to touch you. So, is what it is. So maybe you should leave some for the other people. And instead of everybody going out at one time, my suggestion is stagger this. Hey, I'm going to go get enough stuff for 2 weeks. And then, okay, in a couple days, some other people go out and get a few things for a couple weeks. And because my family shops every month, we tend to only go out a few times a month at the store to buy things like milk. If we need a few extra loaves of bread, some eggs, things that we tend to go through a lot more often than other things. Or if we need some additional snacks, or we just felt like having something different. And if you have a local delivery place or takeout restaurant and you know they have high cleanliness standards, please pick up your telephone and order delivery. If you go to Grubhub, I'm sure, and Grubhub and whatever, Uber Eats or whatever, I'm sure they listed on their apps and websites things you can do to better protect yourself. You can also go to the cdc.gov, who has many helpful hints of common sense things you can do to help keep this number lower and stop the spread of this virus. Well, I'm a little long-winded today, and this was a longer episode than I expected, but I thank you for tuning in, and this is the Trumped Up Podcast, Season 2, Episode 6, Climate Chaos and Conspiracies. I'm Keith Rao, and I am out.